It's time for today's travel and cruise industry news. With the latest from travel and cruises around the world, here's your host, Chillie Falls.
Okay, folks, I hope this is working this time. I'm not sure what the technical issues were. If you were on the first broadcast, and I went through the whole thing thinking that I was live and nobody could hear me. So if somebody does pop onto this broadcast, please go in the comments and let me know if you can hear me, as I am sorely confused about what happened. So technical issues this morning. Not sure why at all, but I guess that happens when you get back and try to get things started. And then when I was going live, and it might be the issue, I had to switch computers. Second time the charm. Thank you, Tom Henry. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Gretchen says you got it. Tom says good sound now. Okay, guys, I have no idea why that threw me for a total loop. Of course, you know me and technical issues. I think royally suck. So now I'm back on the computer that updated it, which threw me on a complete curveball to start with. So that's why I was late getting on. So now we got to come back here and go back to the start. So I'll do this as quickly as possible, since I ran through it before. Where in the world is my stories now? There we go. Okay. I did explain earlier that I am home from cruising and fighting a cold, which is a pain in the butt. It probably has to do with the 5.5 hours I spent sitting on a damn airplane yesterday, including almost 2.5 hours sitting on the runway out on the tarmac in the airplane, and couldn't go anywhere. That was just awful. It wasn't JetBlue's fault. It was Washington's weather, and they wouldn't let you get in the air, and it was just a mess. So anyway, I come out of it fighting a cold. Now, folks, it could have been from the cruise, because it was a little colder weather on the cruise than I had thought. We had a couple of days of really cold winds, and the ships were colder than I'm comfortable with. I mean, my cabin, I was able to control it, but the rest of the ship was, I thought, really cold. But on both ships, the Westerdam and the Sunrise. But anyway, and I will say good morning to Patricia Williams. Good morning, Patricia. Glad to have you with us. Tom says hello to Patricia also. Do we blame the plane or cruise for the cold? I don't know, Tom. It could be either one. I'm thinking the plane myself, because I didn't feel bad, going into it, coming home yesterday. I just started getting during the night getting the sniffles and a little rough throat. So if the throat goes as I'm doing this for the second time today, since I did it before with no audio. So anyway, let's get to the news, which I'm supposed to be doing to start with. The Bahamas is my lead story this morning, going to a digital currency. And folks, this has to do mostly with the recovery efforts in the Bahamas. Another tropical island is set to get its own digital currency. The Bahamas Central Bank Governor John Rolle said yesterday that the digital Bahamian dollar will be rolled out in the second half of 2020. The Bahamas joins an ever-growing list of countries that publicly have announced a commitment to a state-backed digitized currency. Areas that already have a digital currency include the Marshall Islands, Turkey, China, Lithuania, and Japan. I didn't know any of this. Of course, that's not unusual for me not to know something. I'm dumb as a brick. But anyway, it has to do with the financial services needed in the recovery efforts from Dorian. The project, which is called Sand Dollar in the Bahamas, is already well advanced with its first pilot underway on Exuma. They originally had planned on using Abaco for the project starting, but I guess for some reason they got Exuma going first, and they're going to spread it to Abaco later on. So it has to do with financial access issues. Now, again, folks, I'm not an expert on how all this works or what role it has, other than it's part of their recovery efforts and keeping the money flowing where it needs to be. So anything that they can do in the Bahamas to help with the recovery, I'm all in favor of, because they are struggling a lot more than we in this country knew about. You know, I've tried to get my friend on Chillie chats a couple times, and we just never were able to get the schedule together. He's, matter of fact, in the Bahamas as we speak. He flew down yesterday. So I'm going to try again when he gets home on Monday, I believe it is, to get him back on so we can get a firsthand view of what's going on the ground there. But there clearly are signs of recovery on Abaco, which is, of course, 5 months after Hurricane Dorian. In Marsh Harbor, for example, work crews and volunteers are gutting homes, repairing roofs, and clearing streets. But in other parts of the area, stray dogs are the only signs of life and the only distant sounds of chainsaw and hammers that piece together the quiet. Some of the areas devastated by a storm appear to be untouched. So if you guys out there have been supporting the Bahama relief efforts and can continue to do so, because they are still hurting, and the recovery is not going near as well as it needs to get these folks back on their feet totally. Grand Bahama Island, which had severe devastation from Dorian also, with surges up to 20 feet, which submerged a good part of the island, swamping more than 4,200 storms, 4,200 houses. Some of these homes might partially are still standing, but they're not safe to stay in. So that whole area has got a lot of rebuilding that needs to be done. So the bottom line, folks, there hasn't been a lot of talk about how poorly the recovery, and not poorly from their standpoint, but poorly it's going looking at the overall picture. They need help for it to be better. So continue sending money, folks. Continue supporting these people. Hurricane Dorian was just awful. So, and they're not bouncing back near as well as we would like to see them bounce back. So any help you can give them, please give them. They're taking some steps on their own to improve their situation with this digital currency. Again, I'm not smart enough to understand what that does, but so be it. Another issue to talk on the other stories for this morning. I'm sure most of you guys have, over time and listening to other people in this space, like Traveling with Bruce and Emma Latisse over in Great Britain, know that we are, you know, the old George Carlin bit about the words you're not allowed to say on TV. They're all 4-letter variety words, adult words. You can't say those on live air either. Well, there's another word that YouTube will not let us say on the air, and it has to do with that Asian flu, is what we call it. Because YouTube will let you say Asian flu, but they won't let you use the C word that has about 10 or 11 letters, how many ever letters that is. It has to do with what it's called, that flu stuff that everybody's had. We're not allowed to say that. If we say that on the air, they demonetize the channel. Well, we don't do this for free, folks. That's why those ads and stuff are on all of our videos and our live streams and stuff. I mean, we make a little bit of money to cover the cost of doing this. And they demonetize you if you use the C word. So I make reference to the Asian flu. You'll know that that has to do with that stuff that has people quarantined on cruise ships and things, that started in that little village in China. But anyway, a couple stories, just updating. And you may have already at least read or followed both of these. After nearly 2 weeks, castaway in search of any port that would take them, passengers aboard the cruise ship MS Westerdam have spoken of the ordeal in any terms other than it was an ordeal. Now, those of you that remember, the Westerdam really had no reason for them to be denied any of the ports. They had no cases of the flu on board the ship. And yet all these places were not allowing them entry because they had some they had a few sicknesses reported beforehand that had nothing to do with that Asian flu stuff. Well, finally, and I have to give credit where credit's due, folks. You know, I fuss at somebody if they do something wrong, like the administration. I fussed out a couple times when I disagree with them. They got involved in the Westerdam situation and did a really good job. Hats off to the Trump administration for their efforts on this. But Cambodia finally accepted the Westerdam, and they disembarked all the passengers and started in the issues of getting them home. They've been given a place to stay there until transportation can be arranged. Some of the passengers have said things like, you know, everyone says poor you, but there was no poor you. We had free internet and free wine. They had 3-course meals. There was so much choice that they were all extremely pleased with it, and they loved the staff of the Westerdam. How was it? Another passenger was asked. She said, lovely. So the 1,544 passengers and 802 member crew had never expected any of this to happen, of course. But because of the fear that flu stuff that has killed more than 1,500 people, they were turned away by Japan, Taiwan, Guam, the Philippines, Thailand, and Vietnam. And finally, the Trump administration negotiated with Cambodia, and they let the ship in. And it was discovered that none of the passengers were infected, which we knew all along. The only complaint on board, they ran out of hash browns a couple days ago and tomato sauce, said 60-year-old Robert Sayers, a chemical company employee from New Zealand. So the people on the Westerdam had the right attitude and turned it into a positive thing. I'm not sure I could have done that if I'd been running around and people wouldn't let me get off the boat at all. I'm not sure I could have done that. And I'm one of those people that tries to take everything positive from a cruise ship. I just do. I love cruising. I very rarely find fault with a cruise ship. As you'll see, and I'm going to do a video hopefully in the next day or two, where I'm going to compare a Carnival Sunrise and the Zuiderdam. And it's going to be a hardcore comparison, what I liked about each and what I didn't like about each and a real honest to God comparison. But as a general rule, I'm positive about everything on a cruise ship. I just like cruising. So anyway, President Trump thanked Cambodia for taking the castaway cruise ship in a rare message to a country that is one of China's closest allies and has been at odds with Washington. So again, my hat's off to the administration on this one. Thank you to the beautiful country of Cambodia for accepting the ship, the Westerdam. The United States will remember your courtesy, the president said on Twitter late Friday. Now, I disagree with the president's use of Twitter. However, it's nice that he's saying something positive to these folks who and their involvement in getting it done. So that's one of the bad situations over there that has gotten better, and hats off to the administration for their help with that. The other situation that's the bad one is the Diamond Princess. I don't even know the number now, 148 cases confirmed on board. But the guests that have been quarantined on the Diamond Princess near Tokyo have been given a chance to disembark the cruise ship in phases and be taken either to a hospital, or if they test negative for that flu-like disease or whatever you want to call it, not a disease, but anyway, that C word I can't say. They can either, if they test negative for it, they can go to shoreside housing, came a statement from Princess Cruise Lines last night. Princess Cruises has been informed that over the next several days, Japanese health officials are planning a voluntary disembarkation of guests to complete the quarantine period at a shoreside facility. From the information available, it is Princess' understanding that this will be a phased approach with the most medically vulnerable guests in the first phase, including older adults with pre-existing conditions. According to officials, guests in the first group will be tested for that flu stuff, the 2019 flu stuff, we'll call it that. If the test is positive, they'll be transported to hospitals for further evaluation and isolation. If it tests negative, they'll be given the option to leave the ship and be transported to a quarantine housing facility. So that is a step in the direction of getting these folks back home eventually. Of course, they're still doing it very carefully. There are no clinics at these facilities. Prescription medication will be provided, but medical care will require transport to a hospital or a clinic. The food available will not accommodate dietary preferences, but will accommodate certain medical condition. The meals provided will be Japanese bento-style boxes, not Western meals that these folks are used to on Princess Cruises. Princess confirmed that all guests on the Diamond Princess remain welcome to stay on board through the end of the quarantine period. Princess Cruises also confirms that the announcement from the Japanese health officials that there were 48 new positive cases on board. So the Diamond Princess situation is not resolved, but they are taking some steps to get things back in the right direction, getting these folks eventually off that ship, cleared medically, cleared the quarantine period, and back home. And of course, they're getting benefit of free cruises and all kinds of stuff from the various cruise lines involved for the crap they've had to go through on that. Okay, before we get to the last couple stories and a bunch of comments from everybody, I need to stop for a commercial. Do you have a bad back, bad hips, bad knees, or any other mobility issues? Think about Scootaround. for scooters, walkers, wheelchairs, even oxygen needs, delivered right to your cabin. Scoot around for all your mobility needs on your upcoming cruise. Okay, that's my friends at Scoot Around. And those of you know that followed me for a while know that I use Scoot Around myself. I just use them on both ships. And they're great, folks. That's the only way to go if you have mobility issues. I'm telling you, it's fabulous. I did find out something I didn't know before the second cruise. The first cruise, I was told that it would be in my cabin, which it was. The second cruise, which I didn't know ahead of time, I picked up the scooter in the terminal. And I actually rode the scooter on the ship. Only I didn't know that at the time. I thought I was getting it in the cabin. So that was a screw up. And then rode the scooter off the ship. So you can either get it in your cabin when you check on, or you can apparently pick this sucker up and go through all the crap and getting checked onto the ship and so forth in the scooter. So that was great. Hats off to Scoot Around. They're great folks to work with. I love them to death, and it's back where I can now enjoy cruising, which I can't do it walking anymore because I can walk about 30 feet, and that's about it. Okay, two other stories to get to this morning. Royal Caribbean is sending two of its vessels, one from Royal Caribbean and one from Celebrity, on a series of humanitarian voyages on Australia and the United States, along with a donation of 1 million masks to China to aid in the efforts against that Asian flu stuff. Royal Caribbean Spectrum of the Seas will deploy to Australia in the coming weeks, offering complimentary cruises from Sydney to the region's first responder community who have been instrumental in handling the recent fires across the country. Royal Caribbean is in a fortunate position to offer these brave and selfless members of the Australian community the opportunity to join us for a few days and let them relax and unwind in the company of other volunteers and first responders. Awesome move by Royal Caribbean, because boy, they went through hell before they got those fires under control in Australia. Celebrity also announced that it intends to deploy the Celebrity Millennium on a series of 3, 4, and 5-night Pacific coastal sailings from Los Angeles prior to the 2020 Alaska season. The line will also be hosting a number of Cruising for Heroes sailings in March and April in support of California's firefighters, first responders, and veterans. The women and men of Celebrity were keen to have this opportunity to give back, even though the repositioning presented offered a challenging timeline, says the CEO of Royal Caribbean. We know the hard work and sacrifice of those who have been keeping Californians safe, and it feels a good way to be able to say thank you. Hats off to Royal Caribbean and Celebrity for supporting these folks that selflessly do so much in protecting all of us. So good for them. The other thing, and I keep forgetting to flash up pictures. I'm not back to my technical things yet, folks. I got to get used to doing this again. Royal Caribbean and the government of Antigua and Barbuda have signed an agreement for the first Royal Beach Club, which will break ground later in the year. It's going to be a new cruise destination, and it's going to be similar to Coco Key, or probably like Amber Cove, which I loved, by the way, when I was there last week, which is a carnival island. But it's going to have the big swimming pool with a swim-up bar and island-style barbecue, live music, and plenty of water sports. So it's going to be a combination between Coco Key and Amber Cove, similar to that. So Royal Caribbean will have a massive new program in Antigua, And the Symphony of the Seas will call on the island in November, which will be a large ocean-class vessel, and it will dock at the new port in the capital of St. John. So Royal Caribbean and Antigua are getting their act together, and it's gonna be a nice new place in Antigua. Okay, Tom Henry. Tom says he has Santa wipes from a travel face mask on the way. You know, there were a lot of people that had face masks. I did not do that, and of course, then I end up getting sick. I have no idea why I'm sick. You know, it could be from the cooler weather. We had some windy conditions. I don't know. It could have been from the plane. Somebody else got sick, or just you get a cold. So you get a cold. I came back to cold weather, got a cold. Gretchen, of course, is from Ohio. Patricia Williams says, good morning to Gretchen. Tom, wipes used by my physical therapist and kill a bunch of things. I think I can say those. Nor OMV H1 much more. Will wipe plane seats. Yeah, you guys are better at this than I am. Obviously, I just go and don't even think about it. Patricia says hello to Tom. Cruise ships are stopping in Freeport. Is it cleaned up enough for cruises to do anything? Yeah, Tom, Freeport has, of all of the Bahamas areas, they've done the best in getting Freeport back to normal. Of course, you've got the repair facility for the cruise ships there. So that was the first thing to come back online and get the employment up. They have excursions in Freeport now, not as many as they had before, but enough that the cruise ships now are making a decent stop, a decent day. So that part, Freeport itself, is back closer to normal than the rest of the country. The real severe damage is in Abaco and Exuma and those areas, and it's still awful. Chillie, feel free to use my MVBV idea. Okay. David Abel says it's not good for him to leave the Diamond. No Western food and lack of language. He was hoping for a UK airlift. Sent out a request to Richard Branson. David Abel is one of the people that I followed, probably because of Tom, through this ordeal. And it pointed out one thing to me that I will point out, folks. I could not live stream worth anything on the cruises for either Holland America or for Carnival. The signal just was not good for live stream. We thought we had discovered that it was in port, it was better. Yeah, I did a couple in port ones. It still wasn't good. This David Abel that's on board the Princess, Diamond Princess, has broadcast live streams from his cabin, and the pictures and quality are awesome. So Princess has their act together with the Wi-Fi and the satellite, however this whole thing works. So they are way better than the other two lines. They're all owned by Carnival, of those three. So Carnival should definitely, Carnival and Holland America should copy whatever Princess is doing, because the live stuff coming off the Diamond Princess from their passengers has been exceptionally good quality, I thought. The U.S. is sending 2 planes to airlift the United States citizens back here. Yeah, that's again, the administration is involved in that portion of it. They're running into a few little stumbling ideas on getting that done, but they're working on it. Tom says we were cheated on the first broadcast. No commercials. Yeah, because I was so befuddled when I found out you guys didn't have, I had no audio. And I have no idea what happened, folks. At the last minute, I had to switch computers. And I guess in switching from one to the other and moving the camera from one computer to the other, the audio turned off. And I couldn't figure out how to turn it back on. So sorry about that. That was a screw up. All right, we've got RRI. Hey, sound. I'm not sure who this is. That's somebody. Is that what I miss? Oh, nothing. I've just done the whole thing. You're going to have to go back and watch this now. Chillie should have saved taxi and road scooter #1 from the damn ship to the fun ship. You know, that part they won't let you do. I had to leave the first scooter on board the Holland America ship, the Westerdam, and take a taxi over to the Carnival ship. And it was a mess, a lot more confusing than I like it to be, because it's not that far away. But still, it worked, and it all worked together. And IRRI says hi to all. Glad you're with us. There's Mike. Julian, what's going on with the video chats? They were deleted by someone. The earlier one today, I deleted because I had no audio, Mike, if that's what you're referring to. Yeah, I deleted it so I could get this on air again without having to change all the pre-stuff I do. I could go back and just copy and paste and stick it in the description and all that business. So my earlier one, yes, I deleted. I hope I didn't delete anything other than the one which had no sound. Can't wait till Starlink is up and running. Okay. Tom says, oops, I'm back. iPad closed with a dead battery. Yeah, Tom, that's probably my fault too, because this has gone on way longer than normal with me this morning. And Tom has written out the whole thing through my no audio all the way to the end and trying to get information to me. And I wasn't paying any attention to the chat. And I'm just going through my copy like an idiot, which is normal for me. So anyway, well, that's going to wrap it up this morning, folks. Thanks for being with me. Thanks for getting me through this technical issues day. Welcome home, Chillie. Screw up right off the get-go. So, but that's fun. We got through it. So anyway, we'll regularly post videos on all facets of the travel and cruise industry and do these silly news shows 3 days a week. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday morning at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. As always, folks, I appreciate the thumbs up you give me when you do it. All right, thumbs down. Hell, I don't care. But anyway, I do appreciate that. That lets YouTube know that somebody is actually watching. And I certainly appreciate you guys making comments and making chats. That's great. It kept you guys busy this morning while I was running my mouth with no audio on the other broadcast. So sorry about that. But anyway, I always do that. Appreciate that. And if you're new to this channel, and we've got some new folks out there, folks, our subscriber count just keeps going and growing and growing and growing. It's great. It's up over 1,850 now. We passed that little milestone yesterday. So I think it's 1854 this morning. So if you're new out there and want to put up with some of this silliness and my total lack of technical abilities, just hit that little subscribe button down in the lower right-hand corner, bell notification. You'll be notified when I go live or when I post a new video. And there's going to be a lot of new videos coming, folks. I got a ton of stuff to make videos on from the 2 cruises I've been on. But one of them is going to be a comparison. I'm going to do a side-by-side comparison of Holland America and Carnival. Many of you know that I've been a Carnival guy forever. And I'm quickly becoming other things than a Carnival guy. I'll tell you that up front. Not that I was unhappy with Carnival, but I was unhappy with things about Carnival more than Holland America. I was really happy with Holland America. That was an awesome cruise, folks. Just an awesome cruise. So that's it for now. I will see you guys again on Tuesday. Have a great rest of the weekend, folks. I'll keep you posted when I've got some Chillie chats coming up. Some of you know I did one on the ship with Kathy, who was one of my table mates on the Carnival Sunrise, and she did the waterfall in Amber Cove. We chatted a bit about that. So there's going to be more Chillie chats coming along. I wish I had done more on the cruise ships with Chillie chats. That's something for my next cruise. But anyway, that's it for today, guys. I will see you next time on Travel and Cruise Industry News.
Thank you for watching today's Travel and Cruise Industry News. Join us every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday morning at 6 a.m. Eastern for another episode. Travel and Cruise Industry News is a production of Chillie's Cruises.